I walked into Dr. Adrian Chen's office expecting a routine physical. What I got instead was a stethoscope pressed against my chest. Warm fingers lingering just a heartbeat too long, and a diagnosis that had nothing to do with my blood pressure and everything to do with the way he looked at me when he thought.
Ow.
I wasn't watching. Some discoveries don't show up on lab results. Some revelations can't be measured in milliliters or milligrams. And some connections happen in the most unexpected places, like between a lonely architect and the doctor who finally saw past the walls he'd built around his heart. This is the story of how a simple checkup became the beginning of everything I never knew I needed. The waiting room of Riverside Medical Center smelled like antiseptic and old magazines, a scent that took me back to childhood trips to the pediatrician, clutching my mother's hand while she promised me ice cream afterward. Now, at 32, I sat alone, scrolling through work emails on my phone, trying to ignore the gnawing anxiety that always accompanied doctors' visits. I'd been putting this off for 2 years, maybe 3. My best friend Marcus had finally cornered me at our favorite coffee shop last week, waving a finger in my face like a disappointed parent. "Elliot James Morrison, when was your last physical?" I'd mumbled something about being busy with the Henderson Tower project, but Marcus wasn't having it. He'd made the appointment himself, threatening to show up at my apartment with a medical kidnapping if I didn't go. So here I was, wearing my least wrinkled button-down shirt and jeans that actually fit, waiting to be poked and prodded and told I needed to eat more vegetables. Elliot Morrison? I looked up, expecting a nurse. Instead, I found myself staring at possibly the most beautiful man I'd ever seen in person. He was tall, maybe 6'1" to my 5'11" width. Dark hair that fell just slightly over his forehead in a way that seemed both professional and effortlessly attractive. His white coat was crisp, his posture perfect, and behind black-framed glasses, his eyes were the color of warm honey in sunlight. Asian features, maybe Chinese or Taiwanese, with a strong jawline and hands that looked both capable and gentle. "I'm Dr. Chen," he said, extending one of those hands. "You can call me Adrian." His grip was firm, warm, and sent an unexpected jolt through my system that had nothing to do with nerves about the appointment. "Elliot," I managed. Following him down the corridor to an examination room, I tried not to notice the way his shoulders filled out his coat, or how his voice had a slight rasp to it that made every word sound intimate. "Get a grip," I told myself. "He's your doctor. This is professional. You're here for a checkup. It's not to develop a crush like a teenager," but as Adrian gestured for me to sit on the examination table and pulled up my chart on his tablet, I couldn't help but notice the way his brow furrowed in concentration, the slight curve of his lips as he read, the elegant movement of his fingers across the screen. "So," he said, looking up with a smile that made my stomach do something complicated, "2 years since your last visit. What's been keeping you so busy that you've been avoiding us?" There was no judgment in his tone, only curiosity, and something that felt like genuine interest. "I'm an architect," I explained. "I tend to lose track of time when I'm working on a project. And I guess I've been healthy? No reason to come in?" Adrian set down the tablet and leaned against the counter, crossing his arms in a way that drew attention to his forearms. Why do doctors have to roll up their sleeves like that? That's actually a common misconception. Preventive care isn't just about treating problems, it's about catching things early, maintaining optimal health, making sure you're taking care of yourself. The way he said taking care of yourself sent warmth spreading through my chest. "When you're designing a building," he continued, "you don't wait until there's a structural problem to do inspections, right? You check the foundation regularly, make sure everything's sound." I found myself smiling. That's actually a perfect analogy. I have my moments. His eyes crinkled at the corners. "Now, let's start with the basics. Any major health concerns? Changes in your physical or mental health? Any medications you're taking?" We went through the standard questions: family history, allergies, lifestyle habits. I admitted I probably drank too much coffee and didn't exercise as much as I should. Adrian made notes without judgment, occasionally asking follow-up questions that showed he was actually listening, not just checking boxes. All right, he said finally. Let's do the physical exam. I'll need you to remove your shirt. My fingers fumbled slightly with the buttons. This was routine, normal, nothing to be nervous about. Except when I pulled the shirt off and looked up. I caught Adrian's gaze on my chest for just a fraction of a second before he turned to wash his hands. Was that ... interest? Or was I projecting my own attraction onto a perfectly innocent moment? Deep breath in, Adrian instructed, pressing the stethoscope to my back. His free hand rested on my shoulder, steady and warm through the thin cotton of my undershirt. And out. We moved through the examination: lungs, heart, reflexes, lymph nodes. His touch was professional, but somehow intimate. His fingers gentle as they pressed against my neck, my abdomen. When he checked my heartbeat, placing the stethoscope directly over my heart, I prayed he wouldn't notice how fast it was racing. Your heart rate's elevated, he said quietly. His face was close to mine, close enough that I could see the individual strands of his hair. Smell his subtle colon, something clean and expensive. I get nervous at doctor's appointments, I said quickly. Always have. Adrian pulled back slightly, meeting my eyes. For a moment, something passed between USA recognition, a connection, spark of something that definitely wasn't doctor-patient protocol. There's nothing to be nervous about, he said softly. I promise I don't bite. I might want you to, I thought, then immediately felt my face flush at the direction my mind was taking. Adrian cleared his throat and stepped back, making more notes on his tablet. Everything looks good so far. I'll need to draw some blood for lab work, check your cholesterol, blood sugar, that sort of thing. And we should schedule a follow-up in a week to review the results. A week? That seemed fast. I like to be thorough with my patients. He looked up, and there was something in his expression that made me wonder if thorough meant something more, especially ones I'm seeing for the first time. I want to make sure we establish a good baseline for your health, right? Makes sense? Adrian moved to prepare the blood draw, tying the tourniquet around my arm with practiced efficiency. So, architecture, he said as he swabbed my inner elbow. What kind of projects do you work on? I was grateful for the distraction as the needle slid in. Mostly commercial buildings. Some residential. Right now I'm working on a community center in the Riverside neighborhood. It's actually not far from here. The new one going up on Oak Street? With all the glass and the rooftop garden? I looked at him in surprise. You've seen it. I live 3 blocks from there. I've been watching it go up on my morning runs. He drew the vials of blood with steady hands. It's beautiful. The way you've designed it to catch the light to changes throughout the day. Something warm bloomed in my chest. Most people didn't notice those details, the intentional choices that went into creating spaces that felt alive. That was the goal, I said. Architecture isn't just about shelter. It's about creating environments that enhance people's lives, that make them feel something. Adrian labeled the vials, then pressed gauze to my arm and held it there, his fingers overlapping mine. I think we have similar philosophies, he said, just in different fields. Medicine isn't just about treating disease, it's about helping people live their best lives. Our eyes met again, and this time neither of us looked away immediately. His hand was still on mine, warm and solid, and I could feel my pulse hammering beneath his fingers. All done, he said finally, pulling back and applying a Band-Aid with a small smile. You can put your shirt back on. As I buttoned my shirt with slightly unsteady fingers, Adrian pulled up his calendar. How's next Thursday at 2 o'clock for your follow-up? I'll make it work, typed something, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Elliot, can I ask you something? And feel free to say, no, this is completely unprofessional of me. My heart kicked into overdrive. Okay, ... double quotes. Are you seeing anyone? Romantically? The question hung in the air between us, loaded with possibility and danger and the kind of risk that made my architect's mind scream about unstable foundations.
Oh,
I said honestly. Are you? Adrian shook his head slowly, a smile playing at his lips. No, and I should clarify I'm asking because there's a new gallery opening downtown this Saturday. Contemporary architecture photography. I thought you might be interested, and He paused, then seemed to make a decision. I'd like to go with you. If you're interested, as doctor and patient, I asked carefully. As two people who might enjoy each other's company outside of a medical office? His cheeks had colored slightly. Look, I know this is irregular. If you're uncomfortable, we can forget I said anything and maintain a purely professional relationship. But I felt something when we were talking, and I don't feel that often, and I thought maybe you felt it too. The vulnerability in his voice made my decision easy. I felt it, I admitted. And I'd love to go with you on Saturday. The smile that broke across Adrian's face was worth every risk, every complication. Every boundary we were carefully stepping across. Saturday arrived wrapped in October sunshine and the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything feel like possibility. I changed outfits 3 times before settling on dark jeans, a charcoal Henley, and my favorite leather jacket, casual enough not to seem like I was trying too hard, but put together enough to show I cared. Marcus called as I was checking my hair in the mirror for the 5th time. "Are you freaking out?" he asked without preamble. Why would I be freaking out? Because you're about to go on a date with your doctor, which is either the beginning of a great romance novel or a cautionary tale. In knowing you, you're overthinking every possible outcome. I sat on my bed with a sigh. What if this is a terrible idea? What if it's unethical? What if you just let yourself be happy for once? Marcus interrupted gently. Elliot, you haven't been on a date in over a year. You work yourself to death. You avoid getting close to anyone. And the one time someone amazing shows interest in you, you're looking for reasons to run away. He wasn't wrong. After my last relationship ended after David cheated and told me I was too closed off, too focused on work, too emotionally unavailable, I'd thrown myself even deeper into my projects. Buildings were safe. Buildings didn't leave. Buildings didn't break your heart. What if I'm not good at this anymore? I asked quietly. Then you learn again. That's what dating is, learning someone. Letting them learn you. And from what you've told me, Adrian seems worth the risk. Adrian was waiting outside the gallery when I arrived, and the sight of him took my breath away. He wore well-fitted navy chinos and a cream-colored sweater that highlighted his coloring. His hair slightly less controlled than it had been in the office. Without the white coat and clinical setting, he looked younger, more relaxed, devastatingly attractive. "Hey," he said, smiling as I approached. "You look great, so do you." It came out more earnestly than I'd intended, but Adrian's smile widened. "Shall we?" He gestured toward the entrance, and we fell into step beside each other. Close enough that our shoulders almost touched. The gallery was hosting a collection called Urban Geometry, photographs of architectural details from cities around the world. We moved through the space slowly, stopping at images that caught our attention, sharing observations and interpretations. "Look at the way the photographer captured the intersection of light and shadow here," I said. Studying a black and white image of a spiral staircase, it's almost like a double helix. Makes you think of DNA, of how buildings are kind of the genetic code of a city. Adrian stepped closer, his arm brushing mine as he leaned in to examine the photograph. "That's beautiful." I never would have made that connection. He turned to look at me, and we were suddenly very close, his face inches from mine. "You see the world differently than most people." "Occupational hazard," I said. Acutely aware of his proximity, the warmth radiating from his body, the way his eyes dropped briefly to my lips before returning to the photograph. We moved through the rest of the exhibition with an electric current running between us, every accidental touch sending sparks up my spine. Adrian was easy to talk to, thoughtful in his observations, quick to laugh at my terrible puns about supporting structures and architectural integrity. Over coffee afterward, at a small cafe across the street, the conversation deepened. "So why medicine?" I asked, wrapping my hands around my mug. "What made you decide to become a doctor?" Adrian was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his cup. "My grandmother," he said finally. "She had a stroke when I was 12. The doctor who treated her, Dr. Patterson, he was this older black man with the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. He spent hours explaining everything to my family, making sure we understood, treating my grandmother with such dignity and respect." He smiled at the memory. One day I asked him why he spent so much time with us when he had other patients. He said, Adrian, medicine isn't just about healing bodies. It's about seeing people. It's really seeing them when they're at their most vulnerable. It's about being present. Adrian looked up at me. That stuck with me. I wanted to be someone who saw people. The intimacy of the confession made my chest tight. Do you feel like you are? Someone who sees people. I try. His eyes held mine. Sometimes I see more than I should. Like last week, when you walked into my office. What did you see? Adrian leaned forward, his voice dropping. I saw someone who carries the weight of the world on his shoulders. Someone who's brilliant at creating beautiful spaces, but might be neglecting his own space, his own needs. Someone who's lonely but trying hard not to admit it. And someone incredibly attractive who I couldn't stop thinking about, which was extremely inconvenient considering the professional ethics involved. I laughed, surprising myself. I couldn't stop thinking about you either. I kept replaying the examination, wondering if I was imagining the tension or if it was real. It was real. Adrian reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine. Is real, which is why I need to be honest with you about something. My heart sank. Here it came, the complication, the reason this couldn't work. I called my supervisor at the practice, he continued. Explained the situation. Asked what the ethical protocol would be if I wanted to pursue a personal relationship with a patient. He squeezed my hand gently. The solution is that I can refer you to another doctor in the practice. Dr. Williams is excellent. You'd like her, and then there's no conflict of interest. We'd just be two people getting to know each other. Relief washed over me. You did that? Before even knowing if I'd say yes to the gallery? I was optimistic. His smile was shy, hopeful. Was that presumptuous? It was perfect. I turned my hand over, lacing our fingers together on the table. Though I have to say, I'll miss having such an attractive doctor. Adrian laughed, a full, genuine sound that made me want to hear it again and again. I'll miss having such an attractive patient. Though I'm gaining something better. What's that? A chance to know you without any barriers. Without professional distance or ethical concerns. Just ... us. The word us sent warmth flooding through me. When was the last time I'd been part of an us? When was the last time I'd wanted to be? We talked until the cafe closed, until the barista pointedly began stacking chairs around us. Outside, the October evening had turned cold, and I shivered in my jacket. Here, Adrian said, stepping closer and wrapping his scarf around my neck. The gesture was intimate, his hands lingering as he adjusted the fabric, his face close to mine. I'm stealing your scarf, I pointed out. Though I made no move to remove it, consider it incentive to see me again, so you can return it. I don't need incentive. Ooh. The words came out low, rough. I want to see you again, Adrian. As soon as possible. His breath caught, visible in the cold air between us. Tomorrow? I have the day off. We could, yes, I interrupted. Whatever you're about to suggest, yes. Adrian smiled, then seemed to make a decision. He closed the small distance between us, his hand cupping my jaw as he leaned in and kissed me. It was gentle at first, testing, asking permission. I answered by wrapping my arms around his waist and pulling him closer, deepening the kiss with a hunger that surprised us both. He tasted like coffee and cinnamon, and his body fit against mine like it was designed for this. For us, when we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against mine. Really like you, he whispered. Is it too soon to say that? I really like you too, I whispered back. And no, it's not too soon. The next morning I woke to a text from Adrian. Good morning. I'm making breakfast. Get over here. I'll send you my address. 20 minutes later, I was standing outside a beautiful brownstone in the Riverside neighborhood, my heart hammering as I rang the bell. Adrian opened the door in flannel pajama pants and an old medical school t-shirt. His hair adorably mussed, his glasses slightly crooked. He looked so different from the polished doctor I'd met, so much more real and vulnerable and human. "Hi," he said, grinning. "You're right on time. Hope you like pancakes." His apartment was exactly what I'd imagined: clean lines, warm colors, bookshelves overflowing with medical texts and novels, framed photographs of places he'd traveled, The kitchen smelled like coffee and vanilla. "I'm impressed," I said, accepting the mug he handed me. "You cook?" "I'm Asian, and I went to medical school. I had to learn to cook or survive on ramen for 8 years. He flipped a pancake with practiced ease. My mom would disown me if I couldn't make a decent meal. I hopped up on the counter, sipping my coffee and watching him work. There was something deeply intimate about this. The domesticity. The ease. The way he moved around his kitchen like he'd done this 1,000 times. "Have you told your family?" I asked. "About being gay?" Adrian nodded, sliding perfect golden pancakes onto plates. "I came out in college. My parents were. They struggled at first. Traditional Chinese family, lots of expectations about marriage and grandchildren, but they came around. Took some time, some education, a lot of conversations." He handed me a plate. "What about you?" "My mom knows. She's been amazing about it. My dad. We don't really talk much anymore. He didn't take it well when I came out at 18. We're cordial at family gatherings, but that's about it." Adrian's hand found mine, squeezed gently. "I'm sorry. It's okay. Mostly. You learn to build your own family, people who choose to love you for who you are, like Marcus." I smiled, like Marcus. He's been my best friend since architecture school. Straight, married to an incredible woman, father of 2, and the most fiercely protective friend I've ever had. He threatened bodily harm if I didn't tell him how this date went. And Adrian raised an eyebrow. "How did it go?" I set down my coffee, reached across the counter, and pulled him toward me by his t-shirt. "Let me show you." The kiss was deeper than last night, more urgent. Adrian made a small sound against my mouth, his hands sliding into my hair. And suddenly breakfast was forgotten as we lost ourselves in each other. We spent the day in his apartment talking, kissing, learning the geography of each other's bodies with curious hands and hungry mouths. Adrian was patient and attentive, checking in with soft questions, making sure I was comfortable. Wanted this, wanted him. "Is this okay?" He murmured against my neck, his hand sliding under my shirt to rest on my bare skin. "More than okay," I breathed, arching into his touch. We didn't sleep together, both of us wanting to take things slower. To build something sustainable, but we spent hours on his couch, tangled together, exploring the delicious tension between restraint and desire as the sun began to set. Painting his living room in shades of orange and gold, Adrian lay with his head on my chest, my fingers running through his hair. "Can I tell you something?" he asked quietly. "Anything." I was starting to think I wouldn't find this. Someone who understood both the demands of my work and the importance of connection. Someone who made me want to make time, to prioritize something other than medicine. He lifted his head to look at me. "I know it's early, and I don't want to scare you off, but I can see this becoming something real, something important." My throat tightened with emotion. "I can too, and that terrifies me, Adrian. My last relationship ended because I was too closed off, because I prioritized work over connection. I don't want to repeat those mistakes. Then don't." He sat up, taking my hand. "Let's make a deal. We communicate. If work is overwhelming, we tell each other. If we need space, we ask for it. If something's bothering us, we talk about it instead of letting it build up. We choose each other actively, every day." "Every day," I repeated, testing the words. They felt both heavy and liberating. "Every day," Adrian confirmed, then kissed me with a tenderness that made my heart ache. 3 months into our relationship, I learned that loving Adrian Chen meant learning to share him with his calling. It was a Tuesday night, and we'd planned dinner at my apartment hour, first attempt at cooking together in my space, something we'd been joking about as the ultimate relationship test. I'd left work early to shop for ingredients, cleaned my perpetually messy apartment, even bought flowers for the table. At 6:47 p.m., my phone rang. "I'm so sorry." Adrian's voice was strained, exhausted. "There was an emergency at the hospital. One of my patients, she's stable now, but I need to stay for observation. I don't think I'll make it tonight." I looked at the groceries on my counter, the table set for two. The flowers I'd arranged with more care than I'd ever admit. It's okay, I said, working to keep the disappointment from my voice. These things happen. I'm really sorry. I was looking forward to this. Me too. But your patient needs you. That's important. After we hung up, I sat on my couch and stared at the prepared dinner, fighting the old familiar feeling, the sense of coming second, of not being enough, of being the thing that got pushed aside when life got complicated. Marcus showed up an hour later with wine and sympathy. Don't, I said as he surveyed the scene. Don't say it. I wasn't going to say anything. He poured us both generous glasses. Except maybe that this is different. How is it different? I'm alone. Dinner's ruined. And I'm starting to wonder if I'm capable of being with someone whose work is as demanding as mine. Marcus sat beside me, his expression serious. David canceled on you for happy hours with coworkers, for golf games, for things that were convenient excuses. Adrian had a medical emergency with a patient who needed him. Do you really not see the difference? I took a long drink of wine. I know there's a difference intellectually, but the feeling is the same, like I'm not the priority. Then tell him that. Use the communication pact you both made. Before I could respond, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Adrian, still in his scrubs, holding a bag from my favorite Thai restaurant and looking utterly exhausted. You came, I said stupidly. Of course I came. He stepped inside, setting down the food. Mrs. Patterson is stable, resting comfortably, and I have a colleague covering the observation. I know dinner's late and I look like hell, but I promised you tonight and I wanted to be here. Something cracked open in my chest. Marcus stood, grabbing his coat with a knowing smile. I'll leave you two alone. Adrian, good to see you. Elliot, remember what I said? He squeezed my shoulder on the way out. After he left, I turned to Adrian, who was watching me with concern. Are you okay? He asked gently. You look upset? I was, I admitted. I thought old patterns, old fears, but then you showed up. Adrian crossed the distance between us, cupping my face in his hands. Elliot, my work is demanding. There will be emergencies, late nights, times when I'm exhausted or distracted. But you need to know something. You're not an obligation I'm fitting in. You're the reason I want to leave the hospital. You're the person I think about when I'm in the middle of a difficult case, the one who makes me want to find balance. I'm scared, I whispered, of getting hurt again, of not being enough. You are enough. More than enough. He kissed me softly. But I need you to trust me, and I need you to tell me when you're feeling this way instead of withdrawing. Can you do that? I nodded, wrapping my arms around his waist and holding him close. I'm sorry. I should have just told you I was disappointed instead of pretending it was fine. We're learning, Adrian said into my hair. Both of us. That's okay. We ate Thai food on my couch, and I told him about my childhood doctor's visits, about my father's rejection, about David and the ways that relationship had left scars I was still healing. Adrian listened without judgment, his hand in mine, occasionally asking gentle questions that showed he was really hearing me. Thank you, he said when I finished. For trusting me with that? Thank you for showing up, I replied. Literally and figuratively. He smiled, then yawned so widely his jaw cracked. Bed, I said firmly. You're exhausted. I should go home, stay. The word came out more intense than I'd intended. I want you to stay. I want to fall asleep next to you and wake up with you here. If that's okay. Adrian's expression softened. That's more than okay. That night, we shared my bed for the first time. Though we were both too tired for anything more than kisses and gentle touches, there was an intimacy in it that felt profound. Adrian fell asleep in my arms, his breathing deep and even, and I lay awake for a while, marveling at the trust he showed in his vulnerability, at the way his presence made my space feel less like a bachelor's apartment and more like home. The Henderson Tower project was finally finished in late January, and the opening gala was the kind of event that made my introverted heart want to hide in the bathroom. But Adrian had insisted on coming, had even bought a new suit for the occasion, charcoal gray that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread. You look incredible, I told him as we got ready at his apartment. "I'm just the arm candy," he teased, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "You're the star tonight. I hate being the star," he turned, crossing to where I stood fumbling with my own tie. "I know. But you're brilliant, and you created something beautiful, and you deserve to be celebrated." His fingers worked my tie with practiced efficiency, then smoothed down my lapels. "I'm so proud of you, Elliot." The words hit me harder than they should have. When was the last time someone had said that to me? When was the last time I'd let someone be proud of me? "I love you," I blurted out, then froze. We hadn't said it yet. For months together, and we'd been dancing around the words, both of us too cautious or too scared to be the first to speak them aloud. Adrian's hands stilled on my chest, his eyes wide behind his glasses. "What?" "I love you," I repeated, more firmly this time. "I know it might be too soon, and if you're not there yet, that's okay. But I needed you to know," he kissed me, cutting off my rambling with lips and tongue and hands that pulled me close with a desperation that spoke louder than words. "I love you too," he said when we broke apart, both breathing hard. "God, Elliot, I've been in love with you since that second date when you spent 20 minutes explaining the philosophy behind sustainable architecture and your eyes lit up like the sun. I've been terrified to say it, terrified you'd run. But I love you so much, it sometimes feels like I can't breathe." I kissed him again, pouring everything I felt into it, the fear, the hope, the overwhelming gratitude that he'd walked into my life disguised as a routine checkup. "We're going to be late to your gala," Adrian murmured against my lips. "I don't care." "You will." "When Marcus kills you for missing your own event." He was right. Of course. We made it to the Henderson Tower with 15 minutes to spare, and I spent the evening shaking hands, accepting congratulations, explaining design choices to curious donors and city officials. But through it all, I was aware of Adrian standing by my side, his hand occasionally finding the small of my back, his presence a steady anchor in the chaos. The architect and his doctor, Marcus, said at one point, grinning as he approached with champagne, "You two are disgustingly cute." "We are pretty great," Adrian agreed, slipping his arm around my waist with a confidence that made my heart sing. Later, when the crowd had thinned and we stood on the rooftop garden I'd designed, looking out over the city lights, Adrian pulled me close. "Remember when I said I saw you that first day in my office?" he asked. "Yes, I didn't tell you everything I saw." He turned me to face him, his expression serious. "I saw my future. I saw the person I wanted to build a life with, even though I'd only just met you. It was terrifying and exhilarating, and I tried to tell myself I was being ridiculous." He smiled. But I wasn't. I was just seeing clearly for the first time in my life. Tears prickled at my eyes. "Adrian, I'm not proposing," he said quickly. "Not yet. But I want you to know that I see this, us, as permanent, as the foundation of something that lasts. And I want to ask, move in with me. Not tomorrow, not even next month if you're not ready. But when you are ready, I want to share a space with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to build a home with you, Elliot." The city spread out before us, millions of lights representing millions of lives, millions of stories. And here on this rooftop I'd designed, with this man I loved, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. "Yes," I said. "Yes to all of it. To moving in, to building something permanent, to choosing each other every day." Adrian's smile was brighter than all the city lights combined. He kissed me under the stars, on the rooftop of my greatest professional achievement, and I realized that this love, this connection, this partnership was actually my greatest achievement. The building would stand for decades, maybe longer. But what Adrian and I were creating together would last forever. "Stop fidgeting," Marcus said, adjusting my bow tie for the third time. "You look perfect. What if I trip? What if I forget what to say? What if you just breathe and enjoy the fact that you're about to marry the love of your life?" I took a deep breath, looking at myself in the mirror. The suit fit perfectly navy blue, because Adrian always said it brought out my eyes. Behind me, through the window of the community center we'd chosen for our wedding, I could see guests arriving, filling the space with laughter and music. The same community center I'd designed, where Adrian and I had our first real date after the gallery, where we'd volunteered together teaching architecture and health classes to local kids. It felt right to start our marriage here in this building that represented so much of who we were, separately and together. 5 minutes, Marcus said, squeezing my shoulder. You've got this. The ceremony was small, intimate, just family and close friends. My mother sat in the front row, crying happy tears. Adrian's parents flanked her, his father occasionally patting her hand in comfort. My own father hadn't come, but I'd stopped letting that hurt. I'd built my own family, surrounded myself with people who loved me unconditionally, and then Adrian was walking down the aisle, looking absolutely devastating in a black tuxedo, his eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made everything else fade away. When he reached me, he took my hands and I felt the familiar spark. The connection that had started with a simple checkup and grown into forever. Hi, he whispered. I whispered back, grinning like an idiot. Our vows were traditional, but heartfelt. I promised to always communicate, to never withdraw when things got difficult, to choose him every single day. He promised to balance his work with our life, to always come home, to see me the way he had from that very first appointment. I now pronounce you married, the officiant said. And Adrian pulled me into a kiss that was slightly less appropriate for a public ceremony, but absolutely perfect for us. The reception was a blur of dancing, toasts, and laughter. Marcus's speech made everyone cry. Adrian's sister told embarrassing childhood stories that made him blush. My mother pulled us both aside at one point, holding our faces in her hands and telling us how proud she was. How happy she was that we'd found each other late in the evening. Adrian and I snuck away to the rooftop gardener, smaller version of the one at Henderson Tower, but just as beautiful under the stars. So he said, pulling me close, "How does it feel to be Dr. Morrison Chun?" We'd both decided to hyphenate our names, a compromise that felt like the perfect metaphor for our relationship to separate people, choosing to build something together without losing themselves in the process. It feels right, I said. How does it feel to be married to an architect? Like I'm the luckiest doctor in the world. He kissed me softly. Thank you. For what? For trusting me. For letting me in. For building this life with me. His eyes were bright with emotion. That first day when you walked into my office, I never imagined we'd end up here. But I'm so grateful for every moment that led us to this. I thought back to that date, to my anxiety about the appointment. My instant attraction, the way Adrian had looked at me like he could see past all my carefully constructed walls. That checkup had found something that changed everything. Not a disease or condition, but a connection. A love. A future. Me too, I said. I'm grateful for all of it. Even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts, because they taught us how to be together. 2 hard parts and happy endings, Adrian toasted with his champagne glass. 2 new beginnings, I countered, clinking my glass against his. To us, we said together, and sealed it with a kiss under the stars. Below us, the party continued. Our friends and family celebrating the love we'd found in the most unexpected place. And above us, the sky stretched infinite and full of possibility. Like the future we were building together one day, one choice. One moment of seeing and being seen at a time. Some discoveries don't show up on lab results. Some revelations can't be measured in milliliters or milligrams. And some connections happen in the most unexpected places, like between a lonely architect and the doctor who finally saw past the walls he'd built around his heart. This was our beginning, our foundation, our forever. And it all started with a simple checkup that changed everything.